Okay. Welcome. I'm so glad I'm live. So I'm going to put on some music in the background, as I love having music on. I have a live music bar I'm technically owner of, but I am not involved in the day-to-day, and I love picking out music. But YouTube has taken me down for music that I put on, so I'm gonna put on Conspiracy Music Guru because he doesn't have any restrictions. Guru. And hope you're doing well. And nobody's here, so wait, hi. Who's here? Hello. Say hello, please. Hey, hi Tony. How are you? I was just watching. I don't know if you've heard about Jake the Asshole. his take on flat Earth, which was really interesting. Hey, Mikey, what's going on? I'm really excited you both are here, and I'm gonna put on some music, which I learned this from Mikey, to put on videos that from Conspiracy Music Guru that allows us to play live. All right. It's so much nicer with music on. All right. So, guys, are you finding people are sort of panicking right now? There's a lot going on, huh? There's this whole thing with, I don't even really, as I'm sure most of us don't, but the whole whatever's going on in England. It rained here since 1 o'clock yesterday until about 11 a.m. this morning. And I really think it's the chemtrails. What do you guys think? Big time chemtrails. I've watched them, and I saw a recent video with some pilots that said that they actually combine the chemicals to get the particular result. Depending on what the temperature is, then you're going to get the rain that lasts X amount of time because they've actually put the chemicals in to make that combination. So I was wondering if you guys are seeing that where you are, the chemtrails. I know, Mikey, you're out there, but I don't know if I've caught you talking about chemtrails. And what about you, Tony? Is there chemtrails near you? I'm very concerned about that because I'm starting a garden. And I think there's something to the sun being whiter. I don't know. I'm not sure because I started really looking at the sun without glasses on only about a year and a half ago. Yes, I agree. We are all going to be fine. I feel very blessed, and I really believe more and more that the more we just rest in God, and I know not everybody's a believer, but I think most of us in the non-globe world know that there is a creator, and it is about vibrations, and it is about speaking truth. And I feel like that harmony of not lying and really doing our best to be Christ-like, or Jesus Christ, or Yesu-like, and treating your neighbor like you want to be treated. But first of all, loving truth, loving God. I don't know what's going on with his chin here. It's a light. That's not such a big wrinkle, I don't think. But anyway. So yeah, I think that everything is going to be all right. And I think we do need to be aware of what's going on and help other people talk about it, because they're not used to talking about it, right? They're not used to having frank conversations. And those of us that are online and listening to other podcasts and have our head in a space of having interesting conversations based on truth or empirical data, that's a whole new space. And I just want to say right here, and that's why I felt motivated to do this podcast, was that I do remember It's not that long ago, 2020, and hard, really, really hard in 2021 when I learned about the pedophilia stuff. Now, I'd like to really revisit that, and because I do admit, I confess that I did believe a lot of sort of the Trump stuff. I was being fed information that I appreciate and definitely learned a lot from and expanded my mind in certain ways. But I do think I don't know. I do know that right now I don't trust him or what he says, because the vaccine that is YouTube. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. There are therapies that have different results than what the public was told, and this person was promoting them. And I worked at a daycare with my children from June 2020 to July 2021, which was the peak of the what. And we did not use masks. I worked there as a substitute teacher, and there were 80 children and not one case of what. And there were first responder parents, and I made videos for South America in Spanish because I knew a lot of the information was censored. And there wasn't one case of what. And now we know that is being encouraged. It is being encouraged to put these therapies in the bodies of young people for no reason. And it's painful trying to talk like this, but I don't want to be taken off. But if it happens, it happens. But I'm pretty sure that you can hear what I'm saying. Let me check these messages here. Okay. Yeah, a lot of we are lucky to see through this stuff. We're all going to be fine. Yeah. Yes. And yeah, I'd say beyond lucky, right? I mean, I used to use the word lucky, and I realize now that it's not about luck. I think it's about having a lot of hard knocks in life and having been through some shit and come out the other side to some level. And like in my case, I was very close to suicide, but was hanging on to my faith that suicide was a sin. And I absolutely believe that. Who said life was going to be easy, right? But I was coming out of September 11th. I was in New York City when that happened. I had a business. I was on Fifth Avenue and the Flatiron District, the Madison Square Park. And that's right when the second tower fell when we were walking. I was with a couple of girls from my office who worked in my office. And I now feel the evidence that I have, because it's not necessarily proof, but it's as close as I can get now, that there were no planes and that, it was CGI. And I had felt there was something going on, but I didn't let myself get into watching anything on television or get really into the news, because I knew that it was I always knew that media was manipulative because I worked in it, and I studied radio. My degree in college was communications, radio, television. And the reason that I didn't pursue it was because I learned early that the newscasters were seeking to make up stories for more viewers that were very painful to the family members and to the public at large. And I was a junior in college, and I saw that in Miami. I was watching Katie Couric and visiting my brother, and I was like, nope, I don't want to do this. So I've been in sales. I've had a whole bunch of different jobs, but I do know that having studied communications and having that realization, that has helped me in my life to absolutely not trust the news or the media. And as we know, that's what's going on. And we need to help other people learn that. They don't know, right? They don't know. They don't know. Yeah, CGI, right? Am I right? Is that what you guys also? And I do remember the Silverstein insurance policy that came out very early among New Yorkers. I was in Manhattan. I was on the 60th floor, 60th and Park Avenue on a roof, looking with I don't know, like I think there were like 10 or 15 of us on the roof. That day, it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and there was an architect who was from Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, and I think he was Serbian, and he was like, "There is no way that planes knocked that down." He said it. He was like, that was. He knew, and I remembered that, but I wasn't in the space, back to the original point, of looking into conspiracies, and I just wanted my business to continue. I had a real estate business at that time, and I didn't want people not to believe in New York. And I had loved New York. I was so into Manhattan. I was like Miss New York, and I personally don't want to go back to any big cities, but particularly that one. I was there in December, and I just now realize that everything's a matrix, especially the big cities, and they keep us trapped by keeping us, or by me or any of us making the decision to live in those big cities and living in little cells, which are apartments and high rises and elevators. I mean, I can't believe it. It's been most of my life. I've been in apartments since I was 17 until like 2020. I'm now in a house, but I woke up late, people. I woke up late, friends, new friends. And that's, I think, like maybe God wants me to speak up so that I can express to people. I've made a lot of bad decisions in the past, and I want to minimize that happening in the future. And I believe that has a lot to do with communicating with like-minded people that are open and that also can be humble and recognizing, but also bold when you know that your research and your truth can help others. And that's what I think is been the biggest step in my life, has been learning to be more bold about what I know, but also humble in all the mistakes that I've made. And also that I've come very, I'm older. I've come late to the game, but I'm in it, and I'm in it, and I'm excited, and I love it. And I love like all that's going on, like this whole thing with redefining outside of the zodiac or the Gleason's map concept for flat Earth. I think it's great to really explore different ideas. I've mentioned a few times in my videos that I think that maybe it's not a 360 degree circle. And where the hell did 360 degrees come from? Like, math is a code, right? So anyway, I think that we are charged, those of us that are more awake than others, to gently invite people continually to gradually step out of the cage. And it's hard. I talk to 10 people a day. That's my goal. I generally reach it because I don't put in many restrictions on me, except feeling the intuition to connecting with someone and just throwing out some kind of a statement like, hey, did you know 99% of the people who died of COVID in 2020 were non-smokers? Is there something in the nicotine? I've done a little video on this called Conversation Starters. Or was it because people went outside? They were accustomed to being a rebel because they were someone who smoked when everyone said not to smoke, and they already had more, let's say, character? Or was it that they got sun? Or was it that there's something, again, in the nicotine? Or was it that their lungs are strong enough to weather anything? Or was it that what I think that particular sickness or disease was actually electromagnetic frequencies that were emitted from 5G antennas around the world that were turned on at the same time in particular markets, causing people to run to the hospital within a 24 to 48 hour period, and confusing their symptoms with radiation sickness versus a respiratory illness that did not affect smokers. But there's, we don't have the answers. It's like flat Earth, right? Okay, 30 degrees each zodiac. Okay, here we go. Oh, hi, Carey. Welcome. Yeah, I was in New York from 95 to 2005. I was in Italy for a few months in 2004 when I had my first great breakdown. And then I came back to New York, and then I worked at the New York Times, and I was studying at Columbia University, and then I flipped out again and left, and I was living for a long time in South America. I left in one night, so that's kind of I was really affected by September 11th, and when COVID started, or when the pandemic started, or the pandemic, excuse me, YouTube. When it started, I specifically remember the graphics on the screen regarding cases or whatever, being the similar graphics that were shown in 9/11, right? That were shown, it was like 5 graph bars and the numbers and the colors and so forth. And I've been in communications a long time in my life, and I was like, oh. It's the 9/11. This is what I used to say. 9/11 was like the precursor, was showing that they knew how to control us mentally to roll out this end game for depop, right? For depopulation. But they're not going to win, you guys. Not at least with this crowd, right? Salud, right? So I have. I don't believe that the zodiac is 12. I think it's 13. And I think it's 13 based on this moon being a new moon every 28 days. And those 28 days are in line with women's fertility. And I think that makes much more sense, that the Creator made this beautiful realm for us, women and men, and the sun, the man, the penetrating man, and the woman, the receiver. And this is why I don't believe in electron or atomic theory, because I did an experiment in electricity with salt rock, and I understand on a firsthand, very ignorant to electricity and all of this stuff. I mean, like totally left field. I hired a handyman who was 35 and empirically knowledgeable, and was a guy that can go into any place and fix everything, kind of one of these wonderful minds. And we met 4 or 5 times over coffee and worked out from my information that I had downloaded from the internet to read. I read, for instance, Siemens' Introductory Guide to Electricity for their new employees. And then he had knowledge, and we watched videos together of how to create electricity. And I don't know if I should even talk about this, because I've been taken down twice, and maybe it's this particular topic, but probably not. I mean, this is not that difficult to comprehend. But at the end of the day, salt is an electrolyte, and there is free energy. And if I can actually say this out loud, and I'm speaking truth, that I kind of understand this a little teeny bit, and I've talked to electricians, and I don't know much, but I understand the concepts. And heck, Everybody can, especially young, aspiring minds of young men who, like my big brothers that I admire so much, that have that kind of setup. I don't really have a mind for this. Obviously, I've been a communications person, but I forced myself and continue to force myself to get into science and physics and chemistry and biology, because I'm not finding the answers among the people that I used to believe in. And I've realized that it's up to me. And I imagine that whoever is here listening to this, welcome and thank you, that you're the same way. And that each of us have decided, and I think that's what's so lovely about the non-globe movement, is because everyone, in my experience, has to come to it on their own. I have a couple of friends that are trying, right? That are like, yeah, they don't want to say that they think I'm crazy, but I know that in their mind they think I am, because they haven't taken the time to look into this and to research the claim of the globe, right? That's all. Just research the claim and disprove the claim. And that's what I did. I tried to do, and I couldn't. And so, no, I don't know exactly what it is. I really liked the Gleason's map for a long time, but then I started observing again. And as I stated earlier, and I started seeing more oval shapes. And then the whole thing about the 13, I don't know, right? I don't know. But I believe that we are a 13-month calendar with one day for the resurrection, and that those 13 months are 28 days, and that's in line with the beautiful fertility of women, and that the end game here is that to stop the beautiful, infinite, fertile realm from continuing. But that's not going to happen, right? That's not going to happen. It may slow down a little bit. I don't think very much. I mean, if we get the word out and we can continue to talk to people, but also this is such a slow, gradual, psychological control mechanism. It goes so deep. So I am a Christian and I am a Bible believer, and I've been really enjoying getting into bluegrass, gospel, and even pop Christian music. I have young children, and so I really enjoy it in general. It's been really, really, really wonderful, except the focus on, swing low, sweet chariot, right? This whole idea of take me away. I want to die now, and God's waiting for me, and I want to see heaven. And that is a real deviation from what I read in Yesu's words, in Jesus's words. I like to use the name Yesu because that's Jesus in Greek, and until I can find it in Aramaic, which probably won't take me long, but I did try one day and I couldn't, so I just stuck with the Greek. But Yesu, I love that it sounds like yes. Yesu, he inspires me because his words were about living in the moment, speaking the truth. And he debated those Pharisees with genius logic. And I look at logic as natural law. And I believe that truth is natural law. And that Jesus and God, Yesu, is about understanding the importance of being harmonic with natural law, with God, with truth. And that means in the smallest ways. And when they say devil is in the details, it's in the details. And most of us I did for most of my life in many ways, just sort of, just wipe over that. No one's going to notice, or, okay, I noticed that, but no one else notices it, so I'm not going to point it out. And that's a mistake, because that's where we are now, right? I mean, IVAXXD, my children didn't really question it too much until 2020. And I deeply regret that, but also recognize that was part of my journey and my path to be here right now. I don't think I would have had a channel otherwise, and I would have still been working for the cabal I worked 6 years under the Obama administration in a deep state agency, which is now, I just heard Mel, I forgot her last name, but I really enjoy her. Mel, and she was on the comedian who's really funny, who was a lefty and is now more conservative. Anyway, they had a live feed tonight, and it was really interesting because she mentioned the agency that I worked in and mentioned the area that I worked in, which was public-private partnerships, which is basically the linchpin, I think that's a word, for bringing all of the contracts together around the world to achieve their totalitarianism goals, or the Agenda 2030. We worked very closely with the UN efforts. I didn't know, but I say that, and I say I didn't know because I was too comfortable. My ego was satisfied. I did, when I got the job, look up what were public-private partnerships and who were the leaders in it and so forth. And I had already worked in it for a while, but I was like, okay, I need to know what's going on. And I looked up and I found that Bill Gates was the first one. And I saw that video that's already been going around the world. But when he said we just need more vaccines to control our overpopulation problem. And I absolutely remember thinking, that doesn't make sense, but okay. And then I remember also looking up Elon Musk, and because he had received the contract for solar panels, and that solar panel, that I couldn't believe it, he produced everything in China. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. And plus, he's a South African, right? Okay, like, that's okay, like, but it did, and the pieces didn't fit for me, but it didn't stop me. Loved my job. I traveled. I got to meet really important people. I got to be on the cutting edge of a lot of these so-called new ideas that are about sustainability. And again, this was the Agenda 2030, and I realize now that I know a lot more about it than I realized even in the last 4 years. It just keeps coming up more and more. I mean, we were working on telemedicine, teleagro, smart cities, digital cities. This is 2008, 9, 10. Okay, so what they do is they go into the, whatever you want to call it, the deep state, whatever, the cabal, whatever, these demons, they like to do pilots with public funds and then scale or replicate in other areas and just keep the money flowing. But most of the people don't know about it. I would say 90%, just like in the church. Like, I left the Catholic cult in 2021, and I didn't know. I had been an apologist for those pedophiles. So that's what this podcast was really supposed to be about, was the my own true confession and attempt to connect with others, or that you can share with others, that I am so in love with truth now, and I don't necessarily think I was before, because I was very comfortable. And I would like to encourage people to know that it's so much better living, speaking, seeking truth as much as you can with love and with forgiveness, and leave the judgment to God, because they'll get it. They will get it. And Lordy, I really, really don't want people judging me. And not that, again, not that I was that bad, but you know what the Bible does say? It's like a sin is a sin. And I think that that's important to keep in context, not to minimize too much things that we know were wrong gravely to us now in a new context, but that it's important not to judge or to speak ill of others. And that's what I'm working on, and trying to keep the ideas up and practical, forward moving, and fun. right? This should be fun. Okay, so I'm going to look and see if anybody wrote anything. Yes. Yeah, so 29 days. Look, I'm a woman, and my period was 28 to 29 days. So that's, and if you talk to women of a certain age that haven't been fluoridated or metallized or kept, like the diet that I ate for so many years of my life of being a low fat, high carb diet. I mean, I did that until 2008, until I read this great book that my brother had recommended, my big brother, Good Calories, Bad Calories by Carey. But you know what that threw me into? The whole evolution scam. I would tell people, oh yeah, we lived 100,000 years, and in the last 10,000 is only when we started settling. And I had that whole thing. I believed in all of that, and now I don't even know if we've lived beyond 300 years. I mean, I question anything that can be. If the history, what we've got is architecture, right? And we've got land to look at. And I've been studying rocks and rock formations, I think, like a lot of us have on channels, but I've been very, very blessed this year, and I've been traveling, and it's been incredible. And I've been able to travel at finding flights at the last minute for very good prices, and God just keeping me in abundance. And I do connect that to living in truth and in sun gazing and consuming my pure salt and salt water, spending as much time as I can whenever driving to the ocean. Really, really looking at waves, learning about the body, just learning and expanding. And anything that I have a question about, I work on having no judgment. Like if I'm like, okay, for instance, I am currently very interested in wind. I don't know anything about it, so I'm happy if anybody could send me any links on wind. I really want to understand where people think wind comes from, or what is wind. And I haven't even ever looked at it. Okay. But also I'm into the this big question: if our bodies are naturally or organically composed of any metals. And my intuition, hunch, strong feeling, I've given birth twice, is that I don't think that there's metals inside of us. And when I'm researching alchemy and chemistry and looking at it from several angles, from John D. Paracelsus, Chinese alchemy, chemistry, the Bible, comparing metals in Old Testament, what metals are in the New Testament, which books are closer to the period that Yesu was living versus, Paul never met Jesus, from what I understand. And I don't know if we want to go into this area right now, but that's where I'm going in learning about metals and so forth, and in the body. So I went to ChatGPT today, and I posted this, and I put in ChatGPT, is there any proof that metals exist naturally in humans? And so you can look at my post, but in the end, after like 5 or 6 exchanges, I asked, what is the difference between proof and evidence? And basically, you can read it. It's pretty impressive, because it states flat out that evidence is a collection of data and also something like documents and maybe some experiments. Is very flimsy information coming to a theory or a thesis or a hypothesis and or a theory, but not necessarily truth. Whereas proof requires verified and repetitive experimentation, empirical observation that, again, can be repetitively verified and is beyond reasonable doubt, is what I believe it said. So you can look at that. But there you go. There's no proof that metals have been isolated in the human body. And my question was like focused on iron, because I always learned that iron was important and that we lose iron through our blood. And that's what in ChatGPT, and of course, everybody on the internet and almost everywhere says, oh, the hemoglobin and iron. And maybe it's true. I am very open to being proven wrong. It just doesn't ring true to me, because on the chemical or chemistry side, on the natural side, from what I understand, and please, gentlemen, women, ladies and gentlemen, whoever eventually watches this later, hopefully, if you do, please tell me what, if I am finding that iron, and I know there's flakes of gold here and there, okay, but what I'm learning in my research, and again, if I'm wrong, okay, but what I'm going to say is this: like little shards of something called iron is found in nature, and it's hard to get out, and it requires an extreme heating process in particular conditions to then form into something that then I believe, like, then there's another process of having to add, I want to say limestone or over it. But in any case, it's not easy to get this little piece of iron from nature. It's really a laborious process. And I just don't think that our bodies, what do you think? Will you please write in the chat? What do you think? Do you think that that our bodies are born with metals in them? And if they are, and you believe it is because of what the mother consumed, I get that. But let's just say originally, let's say pre-1880. I mean, when did we start using cast iron skillets? And so, because now I'm changing, I've changed to clay pottery pots, of course, pottery pots. And that I brought from Colombia. They're great. They're working in the oven, on the stove. I'm making eggs. I'm making beef. I can soup. I can make any. It's a great, very inexpensive. They're delicate, like, so you want to be careful to not heat it too high. But I go up to almost I get a 400, and in the oven and also on the stove. And it's great. I just ordered a new one. I'll let you know. I ordered one from Amazon, but the other ones were handmade, and I love it. I just ordered wood silverware, right? Look, they even have a saying silverware. In Spanish, at least, it's called cubiertos, but wood utensils for eating. I am really dedicated to finding the cleanest proteins that I can, with no hormones, no antibiotics, no vaccines, that the cattle grazed, that they were grass-fed, all of these things, not just one, and that they felt sun on their backs, that they had a life. I am more at this stage in my food journey, big time into fish, seafood, and exploring that and getting as fresh seafood. I'm inland from the ocean, so it's also a little bit of a challenge, but not too much. And it's just one step in front of the other towards getting closer to detoxing our bodies. So, hello, I think somebody came on. Hey, Tony, there's a lot to metal. It is the first element in Chinese zodiac. Metal creates water. And looking up the definition for metal, it says metal creates salts with non-metals. Yeah, I would love to, we can go into this, but I do not believe that. And I take great issue with salts, with the plural for salt. I believe that there is just salt, and salt is salt. And salt is what you find in the ocean, salt water, and that salt. And there is salt that is in the mines, and they call it sodium chloride, NaCl, and it's 4060 or 3070, depending on what you're reading. I think it's actually, I'm going to look that up right now because I want to get that straight. I think I've been lazy on that. Sodium chloride percentages in salt are okay, because it's been changed. It's recently been changing because I've been deep in this for about a year and a half. Okay, so this table sign is a refined salt containing 97 and 90% sodium chloride, usually anti-caking agents such as sodium, alumina, silicate. Okay, so this is awful, what I've learned about table salt. Table salt is basically made to poison us because they add fluoride or they add aluminum in France. They add aluminum to the table salt in France. And these, again, are metals. Fluoride is a soft metal. This is why I got all into this, because in Colombia and a few other countries, only 3 others that I can find, but I just learned about France, they add fluoride to the salt. And that's when I went, wow, salt's got to be really powerful, because I maybe you don't know this. I didn't know this until 3 years ago, 4 years, 3.5, 4 years ago, but or longer now. But I stopped. I stopped a lot of things when I learned this. But fluoride is a neurotoxin. You can look up Harvard 2012 neurotoxin fluoride right now on Google, and you'll find a study that was done over, I think, over 18 different studies that had been long-term that, for instance, there was one study in Mexico, as I recall, with women and children that were tested, their urine was tested daily over 10 years, or tested periodically over 10 years, the mothers and their children, and it was 2 parallel municipalities, and one had fluoride in the water and one didn't. And what happened? I believe, but I could be wrong, but it was over 30% increase in dementia, Alzheimer's, also caused cancer in the bones, was not good for the teeth, calcified the pineal gland, and lowers the intelligence of children by an average of 6 points. So that's fluoride in water. In the 1990s, they started adding it also in the water and also in the salt in Colombia. And in the water, from what I understand, there are 10 countries. I'm going to name a few of them that I know, which is Israel, Australia, United States, Colombia. It's either Indonesia or Malaysia, one of those over there. And a few more that actually, and you can look this up, there's a map, that add fluoride to the water. All the other countries that don't have fluoride in their water, from what I understand recently in the last 15 to 20 years, people got together, went to their municipalities, to their city commissioners, and said, we do not want this neurotoxin anymore in our water. There's no need for it. It doesn't supply anything. It's a lie, the whole thing about helping teeth. And they got it removed, because once it starts rolling, it's like the chemtrails right now. I don't know if you've heard, but it's great news. Tennessee made chemtrails illegal. And I think it's about 2 to 3 months ago, but maybe I'm rushing it because it makes me so happy and excited, because it legitimizes what we've all been seeing, which are these chemtrails. And now I read on Twitter, I don't know if it's true or not, but that something like 6 other states are replicating the same case to remove chemtrails in their states. So that's great. And I'm just hoping that'll happen soon in Florida. I did go to the sheriff in my county and spoke to a sheriff at the sheriff's office, and this was Anyway, I talked about this before, and in any case, he said that it was out of our county's jurisdiction, that altitude. So now we know that Tennessee did it. So maybe we can do something similar. I think that's what it is. So I have a lot to say about metals, Carey and Tony, and I really appreciate. Send me stuff, like, please send me stuff and we can go over it, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do a podcast. Finally, my daughter's figured it out where I can show the screen. I know that's probably really obvious. Okay, now I'm seeing the click here, but anyway, I want to do that, but not tonight. So here, okay, good. So you didn't get it either. Tony says, I found it weird that it was in the definition too. So I've spent a lot of time these last 4 years, and my job with the U.S. government was doing this work, just sitting and really getting into the meaning of words into languages. So I did this in Spanish and in English, and now I know that the periodic table of elements is very similar to the whole quantum physics NASA crap. These are languages to confuse us. And I'm gonna get the cat's calling me. I'm gonna bring the cat in. So I'll be right back. Come here, kitty. You want to come in? Kitty. So like today when I was with ChatGPT and I was talking about the whole thing with proof and evidence and really trying to get into where, who, when, and it said Humphrey Davies had discovered iron in the human body in 1808. Okay. Are we starting to see any parallels in all of the other narratives that we're all, I'm pretty sure, interested in? The whole architecture, that whatever you want to call it, Tartaria, Old World Order, Tesla, Mark Twain, not Francis Bacon, just the whole, there's so much in the 19th century. Victor Hugo, the authors, who's the guy who wrote Around the World in 80 Days? French. Anyway, so many of these content creators seem to have come out of the 19th century. And then I see a big portion coming out in like 1920s, 30s, and 40s. And that has a lot to do with, of course, World War I, II, 1914 through 18 was when the Spanish flu also came out. And from what I understand, that was a similar situation as to what we're living today. And the mask thing and the other thing that they did to so many people. And I think the casualty rate was something like 50 million is what I heard. Again, don't know if it's true, because population numbers are also something that we need to look at. Like, so I was living in a city that they say had 8 million, and they just keep saying it keeps growing. And I'm thinking, no, I know people are leaving. I'm noticing that there's a little bit less cars in this traffic-laden city. But I've worked in the government. I do not trust the people that I worked with to be doing things honestly. That's what it is. I know how picky I was, and I know what a stickler I was on things, and how I was amazed that, I was like at a point pretty depressed, but I was like, wow, the salary's good. It's a great title. Maybe I can change it from the inside, but no, obviously not. And, that's again, this is the message that things are all going to be all right as long as each of us have our own real awakenings to what part we had in it, is my opinion. Okay, so maybe you didn't have a part in it and you were just a poor schlep that was a victim of it. There are many people that are that, and many people I love that have been that, and many people that fall into that category are children. Congratulations. I mean, that's not great, but that's better than the seat that I sit in, which is I was a part of it. I thought I was smart. I was arrogant. I was ignorant too much. And that's why I love being in this community. And I'm really happy that you're watching this. I'm going to check the messages, see what it says. Big time populations are BS. Okay, so Carey, what do you think? Tell me what you think. Because I don't know. I think that there's a lot less of us. And this is what they do, right? They tell us that there's too many, that there's and this is probably obvious to whoever's watching this, because you probably wouldn't watch my channel if you weren't kind of an oddball. But they have crammed us into cities, and I have lived in a city since I was 17 until 2020, and I loved it. I moved from this little town to Orlando, then I moved to Miami, then I moved to New York, and then I moved to Europe, then I lived in Europe a little bit, but that was later. But I had traveled to Europe several times, and I loved going to the big cities. I thought it was boring going to the countryside. Anywhere I traveled, I wanted to be in the cities. I've now traveled to about 19 countries, and now all I want to do is look at the countryside, and I want to compare the soil and the land and the rock formations and look at what they call as churches. And I want to look at all of the architecture and look at old formations in the ground and compare it to what I've seen. Because my time in South America, I spent a lot of time traveling on the road, and it was before the cell phones were so prevalent, and there wasn't 3G or 2G around all the time. So I was looking out the window at nature in all beautiful different types of land and altitudes and characteristics, because Colombia is the second most biodiverse country on earth, evidently second only to Brazil. And that means that it has that much water than most other countries. So number one, Brazil. Number two, Colombia, due to the water, most biodiverse, meaning it has the most birds, it has the most fauna, everything grows there. So when I was there in May, they actually had, and this city, Bogota, is rainy 70% of the time. It's like, I have never been to Seattle, but it seems like what you would imagine Seattle to be: very green, 1.5 miles above sea level. And it's characterized by the rain, and it's a chill. It's like 55 to 60 degrees about year round. That's what I'm going to say. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I lived there many years, and that's like the feel of the weather being back here in hot Florida. And they had people believing in May that there was a water shortage, and it had even rained the day before, and people were rationing their water. And they pay for their water. And that water has fluoride in it. And it just doesn't end, right? Okay, but in my Bible reading, you can just add a little bit of salt to your water. Pure salt, not iodized, not with fluoride in it, not with potassium. Fluoro de potasio, not with potassium in it, not with aluminum in it. These are things I've seen in salt labels that are in it. You don't want any salt with cyanide in it that they use as an anti-caking agent. Isn't that great? Cyanide. Yeah, it's a small dose, right? But it's over time that it affects people. And that's why our life spans are shortening. And that's why I seek to live beyond 150 years old. And I'll speak that until whenever my time comes, because I believe strongly that we are being poisoned. And as you probably know, law, LAW, stands for land, air, and water. And this new language of English was set up as an early code, I believe, among these, you know who, let's just call them the Khazarian Mafia or New World Order people, to keep their secrets and to depopulate. I mentioned this book. I still have not advanced much more since the last time I mentioned it, but it's called The Rosicrucian Secrets. Please buy it and find it so you can read it along with me. It's so hard. And the subtitle is The Marvelous Metallization of Medicines by Dr. John Dee. And he was a guy who was evidently the right hand or minister of defense, whatever you want to call him, to Queen Elizabeth. And please correct me if I'm wrong, if someone here knows more about this than me, but that he stopped the Spanish Armada 4 or 5 times due to his knowledge of alchemy, think mathematician, magician, and generally knowledgeable guy of the secrets, the Rosicrucian secrets. And the Medicis were the banking family. I'm going to call them banking, whatever you want to call them. But they made their money primarily through usury, but in any case, in Italy. And I think that then they financed, from what I understand, some of Dr. John Dee's work and this particular movement and metallization of medicine. So that makes me think that Medicis is the root word for medicines, right? And maybe someone has heard that before, but I was like, okay, that makes total sense, that medicine comes from Medicis. Because do we have that word in any dictionary before the 1500s? I don't know. And that's going to be hard to find because they're just burning books and putting everything digital. And what they're printing now is being modified. And I'm sure you guys have heard about how the Bible verses have been erased in new printings of the Bible. I have several Bibles here, but in different languages and different versions. And my goal is to continue to buy Bibles and dictionaries. And I encourage you to do the same. I think that the more we have the printed word, the better we can try to decipher the codes, right? Okay. Medici funded Michelangelo. And do you think Michelangelo was real? I mean, was Da Vinci real? I don't know. Okay, so I found it weird. Okay, definition. I don't get it either. Big time, yes. Probably 500 million, if even. Wow, Carey, that little, right? I think I've heard, but amazing. Half a billion. So that is 500 million, right? 500 million. Is that correct? Oh, you think Mexico is the best country in the world? I love Mexico. I've been there a couple times. Enjoyed it. You're going to go. Good. Let's go. Let's keep going. And yes, Medici, he's going to live over 100. Awesome. Welcome to the channel. Please pass on information. Let's help each other. Medici funded Michelangelo too. Fascinating. I think they... so many of these characters, I mean, I saw a recent video of, again, the Vatican and so many of the painting, and it's like, yeah, I don't believe it. And I have seen an artist who painted the mural in my restaurant. I have a beautiful restaurant in South America that this mural, she painted by hand. I watched her, and she had a photo in her hand and painted realistically faces of men and women, horse, a blimp, like really, really interesting. Our theme was steampunk, which is sort of satanic, but I like to call it now pre-digital or mechanical or industrial era. Anyway, so I have seen artists do beautiful things, and I know that they exist, but I have a lot of questions about much of the art that has lasted so-called centuries and centuries and centuries have a lot of questions about the sculptures, and of course, again, the enormous, huge structures of like churches and buildings that maybe were repurposed, right? I think a lot of us are on this path, and because if you're watching this again, you're my people. You're looking into My Lunch Break, John Levi, so many others that I follow a lot of really interesting channels. And Lucius Aurelius of I've posted him, but the channel is Restator. I don't remember the name, but it's a Latin name. Beautiful work. He just did a 6-hour amazing video. I'm going to post that as well in my community area. But yeah, so I just felt that I had to come on and just talk a little bit, because I think that there's women and men that are probably in a state right now of I don't know who to believe. And I know I was there too. And those of us that have a little more research in our pocket, I think that we have to offer out our information and think of creative ways to crack open their mind a little bit, to open up a little crack of light. And that's usually through questions. And it's something I learned from Tom Cowan, Dr. Tom Cowan. Okay, so here we go. Mandela affected. Yeah. Through all the BS last few years, freedom still exists here. Weather, people, food are awesome, and cash is still king here. Okay, so you are in Mexico. Awesome. Progress of many of their plans with large doors and melted structures. Yeah, the melted. Okay, I have been wanting to talk to somebody about this. So I traveled to southern France with this wonderful, beautiful woman. Her name is Carolyn Angel. I would love all of you to buy her book. She's an international bestseller of a book called The 50 Shades of Grain. 50 Shades of Grain. It's on, of course, Amazon. And we visited at least 10 cities in Provence and Vert, this very chic, beautiful regions of southern France. And I am telling you, I saw some melted castles, definitely. And I saw very interesting structures. And I would love, I'm going to start, if you have any links to videos about aqueducts, because we visited the aqueduct that's famous in this region. And I'm like, okay, where's the water coming from? Because where's the rest of the aqueduct? Like there's like a piece, and then it's like, okay, what happened to the rest? Right? And that goes along with this whole idea of the fires, right? There's always these fires. And I love that. I think it was My Lunch Break or one of these wonderful channels that I'd love to give credit to. But I think it was Lucius Aurelius that it was, if you type in Great Fire of whatever, and it'll come up. So today I was in the neighboring town, which is smaller than mine, and with my kids at the park. And then there was a plaque on this building that looks like it's from 1913. And it said, this plaque, or it's from 1916. And it said, this town suffered 3 great fires. Okay, this is a little town. I'm going to say 15, 20,000. Okay. And it said it had a fire in 1913, 14, and 15. And that's when they decided to make buildings that had like whatever the new material was at that moment to be more fire resistant. This fire stuff, and I have I have a very not popular opinion about fire departments and firemen. I think it's a third militia being created after police, after like military, police, sheriffs, and then firemen. because they are just popping up way too much. We don't have threats of fires, but just now, I've been hearing this every night. And it's every night around about 10:45 p.m. Well, you hear sirens. And they do this. And I talked to a guy at the coffee shop the other day, and he was a young man. He was 22. He goes, I hear that. He goes, and it's always the same time that the fire trucks come by. And I was like, okay. But his was in the day. And he said he noticed it for weeks and weeks. So this is justifying their job. I worked for the government. I know what that looks like. And you do too, because this is common sense. People want to keep their jobs, so they want to look like they're busy. And if they get some message from their boss saying, go out and put on your sirens and drive around and pull your cars over and pull people over and do a little bit of a show, because people, friends, Carey, and Mikey, if you're still here, and Tony, you guys, what they're doing is the same thing. Okay, so I am extremely blessed, but I want to say this so that people can understand why I'm confident about this statement, that they're doing the same things everywhere and it's the same script if people don't realize it. Colombia, two different cities on this last trip during the summer. France, Spain in January. I was in New York, the city and upstate, and in Florida. Chemtrails, the sirens, when there's nothing really going on, fear-mongering, construction on government buildings that don't need any renovations or anything. This is a big one, and I'm seeing it happen in my town. And I saw it in France. They're starting the 15-minute cities where I was. Okay, yeah. So those electronic speed screens that you see when you're driving, the speed limit signs that used to be just a speed limit sign, and now they're automated digital speed limit signs. Guess what? When I was in France driving my friend's car, the rental car, and she's an American as well, she had the car, evidently when she rented it, gets totally like hooked into the system of France highways. And if you don't take the toll road, which is expensive and crazy, they had like one of the toll booths was like 25 wide, and there's not one person in the toll booth. It's all automated, and you have to have your card or cash, and they don't always give you a receipt, and it's not clear how much it is because it's based on how much you got on, so you don't pay attention, and they can just keep charging you. It is so confusing and so terrible that I said, let's take the side roads. So we're taking the side roads, and as I'm driving along, you see the speed limit, and I was 2 kilometers over the speed limit, and it said, somehow I got the message, I think it said it there, but it was like, this will be sent onto your car license. Like, this is what's coming, you guys. They're going to do it through those blue lights at the stoplights, and also these digitized speed limit signs are for giving you automatic speeding tickets. So what do we need the police for? That's a good question. What are they there for? To control, I don't know, certain aspects of our lives? Well, that's not going to happen. And if we get involved in our city commission meetings and in our county budget meetings, because then you can have a voice and we can do a little bit of quasi lawfare and play in their boundaries, right? In their game. And that's what this friend Carolyn told me, was how they got fluoride out in certain municipalities of California was when they sued. Okay. So my efforts when I talk to people is that maybe I'll run into someone who's at the moment of their awakening and they want to do something. And so they work if they're working in the legal system, or if they're working in the government office, or if they're working in a hospital, or if they're working in media. if they're a cameraman or whatever they are, if they're whatever they're doing, that they can feel the infinite spirit of truth, Yesu, your source, your creator, whatever works for you. But for me, it's been, for me, very biblically based, but that's in nature based. That maybe it's their day when they hear a question that I ask, and then maybe they determine to make it right in their way by talking to someone else. Like, I think that is the second coming of Jesus Christ, is the courage to speak truth to authority. And that's in the book of Revelation. I believe it's chapter 13. The courage to speak truth is what we are called to do. And it is the hardest thing, right? Like it is. And I think that, again, if you're watching this channel, you're probably someone who has at least talked about the shape of the earth to people that think that that's insane. And you can counter this, but this is the courage, and it feels good because we're finding our people, and more are waking up. I know it because I have been talking to an average of, usually meeting at least 10 people a day since March 2020, primarily online. And then when they let us go out, I would talk in person everywhere I could go. We weren't allowed to go out, but a few, like 2 or 3 days a week. There was a 6-month quarantine in Colombia. It was the second largest on earth. And I left in June after 3 months, and so the children could go to school with no masks on. I'm being careful because I don't know what the rules are, but I worked in a school, like I said earlier, and that's my story. And so when I realized that, again, that I knew that this wasn't affecting children, and now that they're encouraging something for children that's not, I don't personally think, but many people think is really good. But I'm just questioning. Then I had a real hardcore awakening, and then realized that we can't believe anything. If you choose to believe it, know that it could be wrong. And so that when I say that I believe something, I'm not saying it because I'm right. I'm saying at this moment, there's enough evidence, which I know is not proof, that it is working for me. And then when I say I know, like I've got the proof to show you. And I know that Jesus, yes, who lives, because I have had the best moments of my life, or the hardest moments of my life, have been redeemed, or I have been redeemed because of the arrangement of words that I have read in the Bible from Yesu that have absolutely come true. So I love my creator, and I love nature as well. I love, but not as much as my creator, because the richness of words to direct our thoughts and to have other people to communicate with and debate them and converse is really a huge gift. But also following natural law and noticing that the sun is coming across or rising daily. I still believe it's coming across. And but I do think that it's very interesting to consider the size and shape and the when it's setting and when it is rising, and setting, rising, going away, coming. But it's gosh, the sun, like, isn't it amazing? We are taught to, like, people now are looking down, right? We're looking down at our computers, or we're looking down at our phone. But what God wants us to do is to look up, and to look up at the sun, and to look up and stand up, just like the plants do, right? And the plants are just growing upwards towards the sun. The sun gives life, and the earth does too. And the moon gives us our cycles, and is, I totally believe connected with fertility. And I'm just every day So grateful. I mean, just have moments all the time, just going, thank you, God. It's just so beautiful. I'm so blessed. We're so blessed. God is so great. I'm so like Carey and Tony, glad you guys are here. And that also knowing that like we have to be positive. We've got to bring people up into this and let them know there is another way to look at things. And mute the news and mute the stuff that's not useful. I think I need to know somewhat about what's going on in politics because we are all around people that are asleep. And so they're sort of like in a tragic, sort of confused state at times. And maybe knowing a little bit about that can help them or not. And just moving forward. And then if they have a question, to be able to help them. Suss it out and be like, well, this is what I've learned, and Obama's wife is a man, and all those things. And I do believe she's a man. The proof that I have is on the screen, so I don't know. Maybe she's not a man. But I think I know that if you put in Michael LaVaughn Robinson and you hit images, you will see a man, and it sort of goes with a lot of the things that we're seeing as far as what's being pushed on children and all of the stores and everything that's just being pushed, this whole transgender craziness of another. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, you're right. So I saw a really good, I'm done. Actually, you're right. I'm done. Oh yeah, my children know the flat Earth. They know that we're on a globe. I mean, the thing is, they know that we're not on a globe, and that's what I say. That we're not on a globe. Your wife saw it. I was losing my mom when I started. So, similar situation. Yeah, it's called Revelations in the Book of Revelation, right? It's a revealing. And my restaurant in Bogota is called Rebellion. And it was actually a play on the word rebellion, but now I want to say it's actually a revealing, right? It's a place where I want to help people learn things in revealing, but I'm not involved in the day-to-day anymore. You bought a water filter 4 months ago, been drinking tap water since, tastes much better. That's good. Just add some salt to it. Try to find the closest salt mine to you if you're near the ocean. Where? I don't know. You are in Querétaro. Okay. For the buildings found by. So, okay, I'm going to read this. Huge aqueduct here in Querétaro. Okay, let's look at Querétaro. Awesome. Oh. My daughter's making me an introduction. Okay, let's go here. Let's see if this works. New tab. Share. Okay. Querétaro. Whoops. All right. Let's see. My little channel's open. My daughter's saying this. Okay. All right. Nice. So. Wow, look at your bit. Whoa, that's a big one. Look at that cathedral, huh? Like really, it was the Mexicans at their height making these. Same in Colombia. Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Oh, wow. Look at that river. I've been thinking, that a lot of these rivers are man-made. What do you think? Okay, where is it? Come on, show me Querétaro. You're probably going, it's here, but I can't go to both screens. The kitty's here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so you're pretty central, and you're not too close to the beach. Yeah, if you can find, okay. Hey, Boston Bear. Good to see you. How's it going? Thank you for coming on. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Carey, but so you're in inland. So Carey is in Mexico, Boston Bear. And we were just talking about maybe he got a water filter. And I'm really big into learning about the periodic table of elements and the poison that is being imposed on us for the demise of mankind or depopulation, whatever you want to call it. And I think that that it's based on the Bible. Okay, this is, and I heard and I read something else today, but I'm going to do a presentation on it. But basically, sprinkle pure mineralized mineral salt, not mineralized, mineral salt, or use salt water. Use salt water or add the salt into your water, because in the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verses 18 through 22, is when Elisha goes to Jericho. Do you know this story? Does anyone know this about Jericho? Okay, so here's the question, guys. Who makes the water filters? Okay, I don't think that they're good guys. And so I don't know if they really filter out this stuff. And I just don't trust them. So, but I'm probably going to get one, but I'm on a well. But my concern is the arsenic, because we have neighbors that are in Orange Grove, and they told me to my face that they use pesticides and that they have a well that's 350 feet deep, which is very unusual in my area. The average well here, from what I understand, is 140-ish feet. And I went to the guy who builds most of the wells in this town for the last 50 years, and I had an hour-and-a-half talk with him. And it looks like a solution would be to deepen my well. But my water tastes really good right now. My mom lives next door. She loves our well. It's really, really good tasting. So we're praying that it does not affect our water. But I did go to the county nationally funded EPA office, Environmental Protection Agency, and also to the Water Preservation Office, where a lot of people work that make a lot of money and barely the public goes in. But I went in with my children and I asked them with my address, what do you think I should filter for if you were here? And they said arsenic. And EPA said, oh, it's naturally occurring. I said, it's not naturally occurring. All right. So I'm sure of that. So what I just want is, could totally be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really mean that. I just am very wary of everything. I don't believe anyone. So what I do think there is a lot of wisdom in is the Bible. And maybe I get it. Maybe that's also some artificial information. But for me, I found a lot of truth in it. And in this verse, Elisha goes to the city of Jericho. And in the city of Jericho, they say to him, hold on, I'm going to read your messages, because I don't want to go on if you already know the story. Okay, there's a difference in taste. For sure, it takes the bad stuff out. Then there's rocks at the bottom to add minerals back in. I think all the filters, including reverse osmosis, is all reduction systems. The distilling gets all the stuff out I hear. What's your opinion? I'm new to distilling. Good to see you, Carey. Okay, so I don't think that our body needs many minerals, and I don't even know if minerals. I think we should really study this concept of minerals, because they tend to be metals when they're talking about it, and I don't think that's what our body needs, but I could be wrong. In a nutshell, I think that we should be. Then when I went to France for 2 weeks, we're looking for primary water sources, which is a natural spring, right, that is moving up through. Primary water is what they call it, but now that word's been sort of abused. But that it is water that is naturally pushing up from the earth and is moving all the time. And so it has been said that there is a natural spring within 30 miles of everybody, anywhere on earth. And that's when you think of the Bible, and there was a well and so forth. I think that it may also have been referring to the springs. So back to the story in the Bible. So Jericho, so a man in Jericho says to Elisha, this great prophet, hey, isn't our city beautiful? It's really looking beautiful, but our fields are barren or sterile, depending on the language. I read it in Spanish and in English. And oh shoot, I forgot. But anyway, our fields are barren and our water is bad. Okay, so Elijah said, okay, water is bad, and our crops are barren, or our land is barren, not producing, sterile or infertile. And Elisha said, okay, bring me a new vasilla, or a new vessel, or in the King James Version, it's krus, Kruse. I should be reading this to you. I think I've read it on one of my podcasts because I think it's amazing. And that's basically a ceramic pottery water bottle. I think that's how it's been explained to me. And he said, and put salt in it. And then he said, and take me to your spring. Take me to your spring, or to your fountain, right? Your spring, I think is the word. And Elisha threw the salt into, the Bible says, Elisha threw the salt into the spring and said, now your land will no longer be barren, and there will be no more death in Jericho. And then the Bible says, and that's how it was, or something like that. And then that became truth. So I believe our body is 80%, 80 to 100%, 90 to 100% salt gel. That's my theory. A lot of people believe that it is already crystallized, structured, fourth phase water. You've probably heard of this. I'm sure RunBoston Bear has. But so my belief is that since our tears are salty, our sweat is salty, blood is salty, earwax is salty, everything we expel seems to be salty, seems that semen is salty, that our body is expelling salt, saliva is salty, snot is salty. Maybe we're made of a salt gel, and that's what creates the electrical circulatory system and our heartbeat. Okay, so that's my little theory that I've been putting forward since October, and I've been kind of traveling around and writing as many people as I can, and I think it's pretty obvious. But anyway, I've seen a lot of stuff online that is like really going against this. But in any case, it seems pretty obvious to me that we are salt gel. So I have replaced my coffee in the morning with salt water from the ocean, or water that I put my salt in that I got from the 10th largest salt mine on earth in Colombia called Zipaquirá, and it's black. And I feel great. This has been since pretty much, I got rid of my phone in August. I don't have a cell phone since August. And I have been drinking salt water from about October, and I've been sun gazing since August. I also walk barefoot for the last 2 years as much as I can on the earth, earthing or grounding, and I don't lie. That's my those are the 4 steps that I believe can lead us to a life beyond 150 years. And this is my salt theory for longevity, and it's based on this concept that our body is salt gel. And I also connect it to the pH level because I recently learned about that. And pH neutral is 7, and 7 is on this evidently continuum that they created, right? Again, it's so similar to what they do in the cosmology stuff, and it's the same thing they do in virology, right? Both are huge lies, like the fake heliocentric model and the whole virus model and allopathic system. They either categorize things really, really small, or they make things really, 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 really big, right? And so that's what they also do in the periodic table of elements. It's like just pure full-on confusion and added electrons, and they change things, and then oh, it's not always acting that way. So it's just a lot of bullshit, right? So I think that this, I don't want to say so much, excuse me. That by recognizing that this is an available substance, I believe it is one of the true elements, along with water. I also believe that tree is actually an element, and I can go into that. And I think the ether, air, and I believe ether in the air. Of course, most people do, but that ether is actually salt in the air at a particular altitude and temperature, which of course will probably be impossible to prove. But if you've gone into any of the jet fuel hoax stuff, like maybe that's part of how they say that there's a particular altitude that the planes have to get to. Okay, so I'm going to read what you guys think. Yes, so look around for a natural spring. You'll find one, Carey. And Boston Bear, excuse me. You'll find one. Well, yeah, a reservoir, but be careful, because there's a reservoir that I've seen that are man-made. And so, but yeah, I think that rainwater can be okay, but then you got to look at all the other stuff. But I still think that at the end of the day, anything that is flowing, if water is flowing, that's a good sign. So a spring and that, but okay, so I have taken coffee out of my diet, and I have done the opposite of Carey. I have moved to, I have moved to beer when it's available, and I try to get beer that's handcrafted if you can find it, and if that means anything. But it's still going through a distillation process, which is still a pretty heavy duty process. And so what I'm working on is making wine. And I believe that wine, as referred to in the Bible, is any fermented fruit. And they have tricked all of us. Again, we're going back to these New World Order, Khazarian Mafia, the people running everything. They have tricked us into thinking, in my opinion, that wine can only be from grapes, right? And so then they set up their little markets around the world, and then they get in their little fights with each other, and they decide, okay, now we're going to promote Argentina, and now we're going to promote California wines, and now we're going to promote wines from upstate New York. Oh, now we're going to let people come in Virginia with wines. Okay, it's like this is what they do in every industry. Like, have you noticed the lime is the same Tahiti lime all over the world when you get your margarita, right? Like, this is what they do. They want to control the supply chain of everything. And if they can do that in quasi-commodities, which are the fruits, which so many of us are into, or the vegetables and so forth, they are setting up a world economic system, or a false communist totalitarian model that is not based on supply and demand, and is sick. And also, oh, get this, I just learned this today about bananas. I think you can make pineapple wine. You can make any kind of wine, any fruit that has any sweetness to it, you can make it into wine. That's where I'm at. And there's a ton of information on that, and you can find it, but I'm hopefully going to be doing some videos as I'm making it. I made my second bit of butter today. I didn't do a great job. I didn't get as hard, but it was delicious, and it got a little runny, and I used it in my hamburgers instead of using any other fat. It was delicious. And I used my mineral salt. But I just want to mention coffee. So I drink coffee. I was like a 3-cup-a-day coffee person. In October, when I visited Carolyn in California, the author of this amazing book, which is called 50 Shades of Grain, 50 Shades of Grain. She's beautiful, amazing woman, highly intelligent, just fantastic. When I visited her in October, just before Flactoberfest, just before I met RunBoston Bear and all of these wonderful personalities there, she explained to me, and because I hadn't had her book yet, I had taken her course, which is also highly recommended. She has a master class. I think it's around $200 or less. It is amazing, and she interviews like Dr. Tom Cowan Gerald Pollack, who's like the father of the easy, which is another synonym for crystallized water, structured water, or fourth phase water, right? That's exclusion zone water, Gerald Pollack. So I learned a lot of this from her. So it's a great class. It's called thewholetransformation.com. And it's amazing. But if you look up, well, I'll put it in because I really think it changed my life in a lot of ways. And then she's become an amazing, dear friend. So this is a masterclass. And there's, I think if you buy the package, you can get it from the year before, which is amazing as well. They're just people that have been dedicating themselves to studying water in all different ways, like in plants and in your health and in music and the whole cymatics thing. And she's got all the important people that have been doing water stuff that you guys have probably followed. But in any case, she explained to me that the most pesticided crop on earth is coffee. And that pesticide is glyphosate. So look it up. That's the whole Monsanto thing. And I think that perhaps that's why I was infertile for a long time. But that could have also been the electromagnetic frequencies, which I believe is also COVID, which is also was activated by these 5G antennas around the earth, and not around, across the realm, around, but maybe not around, maybe in an oval on the earth. And that so on one of my live chats, when I had a wonderful another friend subscriber, he wrote, yeah, he goes, of course coffee's bad, not only for that, but because it's burnt. And I never thought of that. It makes so much sense. If you don't know, what they do with coffee is you let it dry in the sun. You make sure that this really sweet part that I've ate before, that it like sloughs off, and then you dry it again, and then you send it to a roaster where they burn it, and then they send it to you, and then we burn it again, and then we drink it. And don't forget, it has the pesticide glyphosate, which could cause many things, but I think maybe related to infertility, because if it's a pesticide, it's about murder, and it's about stopping fertility or stopping the natural process. My cat's going crazy, who lives outside, but comes in a little bit. I'm at 456 days without a sip of alcohol. Wow. I just decided one day to stop as I was grabbing a beer or two too often. But you're really counting those days, huh? And I am. Are you going? I'm going. I'm excited. I bought it, and I'm looking forward to it. Hey, Sea Lightning is here. Sea Lightning, you're the one who said to me about the coffee. Did you hear my little talk right now? It's about you and how you told me that the coffee was bad. Anyway, I think that we need to just look at all of our foods, and we all do what we need to do. But getting back to this whole idea of what am I drinking, and what I'm talking about is that I do think that a little bit of salt water in the morning. I drink about this much. I keep it in my car until like 1 or 2 o'clock. I don't eat usually until 3. On a good normal day, 3 to 4 o'clock, I don't eat anything. And then when I eat, I'm pretty picky about my foods, which is generally higher in proteins and not so much carbohydrates. I get sourdough bread. I'm going to start making that when I get the energy up. And fruits, of course, which is a lot of sweets. And I think that, and then I drink. And I've learned now that I've been drinking tequila. That's my and I just bought an orange vodka, and that looks pretty clean. But also, I'm staying away from what I love, which was Prosecco and sparkling wines, because of the sulfites. Sulfites is sulfur. I have confirmed this. I am really confident, and it's really hard to say out loud because everybody It's kind of like a flat earth thing. Sulfites are not naturally occurring in wine, at least what they tell you that when it comes in the bottle that's naturally occurring, that is injected. And I talked to wine experts across France, and without sulfites, wine lasts a long time. At least 3 to 4 years, if not a lot longer. And who the hell wants to keep wine for a long time? That's a whole marketing scam too. Just like specialty coffee was a marketing scam that I was a part of. I was a part of a $22 million coffee marketing scam. Look at the kitty cat. Look at my kitty. So for Colombian coffee. And specialty doesn't mean organic. Specialty doesn't mean non-whatever, GMO or pet, whatever. Specialty just means it's special, right? So those are my big focuses in the nutrition world. Yeah, I do the intermittent fasting, and I've done, and I haven't done any this year, but last year I did 5 3-day fasts, but with a little liquid, but no food. And I did a 1.5 day dry fast, but I need to do a 3-day dry fast. That's my next goal. Oh, yes. Tell me how to do it. I will be honored. I can't believe you all are here and that you stayed on. Thank you so much. I'm very honored. How do I do this? Oh, awesome. And I just visited. I'd love to. Okay. I'm going to open up your little. You guys have to tell me how to do it. Okay. Pin to channel. Put user in timeout. Hide this. Use it. Add as a moderator. Yes. I'm going to put managing moderator. All of you. Because thank you for being here. I'm very grateful. Okay, right. Okay, I did it. Okay. Yeah, so I went to Galt's Landing. Have you heard of that? I highly recommend it. This wonderful man named Jim Gale. We went on Thursday, and he has 240 species growing in an area about an hour and a half from me. Florida sand. From what I understand, he didn't do a lot to prep it, and he uses compost, and it was fantastic. And he talked to me about something called irrigate and fertilize at the same time. And that from the lake, he was able to pipe in the irrigation, and the little lake that he has, he put the fish in, and he basically created this small lake there. But we have a big lake behind my house that I hope is healthy, and I heard has its own springs. So hopefully that might work as an irrigation solution for my mom and on her trees that she's growing. I'm growing 3 new trees. I'm growing lychee that she bought me, avocado and mango. And it's only been, I guess, about 7 or 8 days that they've been in the ground, and they're doing great, which makes me happy. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. And please pass on the link. So yeah, guys, listen, thank you for being here. I just wanted to let you know you're not alone. If you are a glow believer, a non-glow believer, and I'm sensing that more and more are coming on, but I'm disappointed that there's so much confusion going on, that it's getting really this whole Jaren thing, and that whole trip to Antarctica. Boy, that's a big old scam. Let me show you my shirt. It says, "Don't hassle me. I'm local." And it's actually perfect for me because I'm so bad at grammar now because I just don't care. But isn't that fun? Because I am local. This is where I grew up, in this town, but I've been gone for many, many years, and I'm back. But my memory of how it was in the 70s and 80s helps me be able to talk to people all around town, because I'm like, nope, wasn't like that. I went to high school. I went to public elementary, preschool, junior high, high school here. And then I went to this public university, an hour and a half from here in Orlando. And I am a local girl in that regard. And that's why I'm just appalled about how much people are living in their air conditioning. You can see I have my fan on. I do turn it on at night when it's 90 degrees so that the girls on the second floor get a little bit of air in their rooms, but their windows are open and their fans are on, and I have a floor fan because I don't want them to be accustomed to this Freon or whatever they're using now. But Freon is a hydrofluorochloride. And again, you know, fluoride's bad for you. And chlorine, did you know that chlorine and sodium, the only source of chlorine on Earth is salt, and the only source of sodium on Earth is salt? That was a big one for me, because that's what really got me into, like, okay, I got to understand as much as I can. And I'm still deep in it. This is like a lifelong study, getting under the code of this periodic table of elements. But if you combine it with studying alchemy, it's coming together, and just got to keep a really open mind and throw out questions like this, because maybe I'm wrong, but I'm telling you, the book's subtitle is The Marvelous Metallization of Medicine. And I just feel like everything, the package of Cheetos poison garbage is in metal, right? That aluminum foil, everything, the computers, almost everything is metal, right? Or plastic. And I've been thinking, okay, well, maybe plastic's a little bit better than metal because it doesn't have the conductivity. I know that for a fact. Except static electricity. Static electricity, I think, only happens when there is a non-natural material around, and that tends to be a plastic. That's something I believe. Don't know, I believe. Can you see the hurricane come? Wait, I did not look for the hurricane. Oh, okay. You can do that one. Okay. Thanks for the wrench. You all save this link for later. I went to high school with Jeremiah, and awesome. I will watch this link later. Thank you very much. A lot of psyops running ATMs said, sad to see so much energy wasted. Okay. Yeah, I am sad to see so much energy wasted on the psyops. I agree. It's a lot of bullshit, and people are sad, and it's really sad energy. And we had, with the hurricane, I think it supposedly hit yesterday. We had rain from 11 a.m. yesterday until 12 or 1 p.m. yesterday until 11-ish, 12 o'clock today. It rained the whole time. But I definitely think that was a created, whatever it was. Right now, is there another one coming? Again, I'm not watching the weather. But, hey, Carey, I want to tell you, I moved into Columbia in one night from Manhattan. So I know the beauty of the move to a Latin country, and the people were just embraced me, and it was so much what I needed. So I know how beautiful it is. I just moved to big cities. I would live in rural Columbia. I would, because I would make the same thing that I'm doing here. I would get my connections for the right food that is clean. I would grow my own food. I would get my own animals. And make huge friendships with other mothers and families, and get things. We can live anywhere on earth, I believe, as long as it's not a big city. That's my opinion. The big cities are where they corral us and they kill us, and that's a major aspect of the depopulation tactic. And many channels are on a loop. Yeah, it's just bad. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. This is a non-monetized channel, so I am extremely sincerely appreciative of you being here, because it's just a space to talk, and I don't want to get anyone mad, but I do need this. I need connection with you gentlemen and women to fortify myself periodically, because I'm sure, I don't know if it happens to you, but there's moments where you're just like, wait, am I the only one? Is this a psyop on me? Right? But no, because I put the time in, and I love Jesus. I love Yesu, and I am not looking. I don't want things to be bad. I just want things to be true. And I have children, and I want to be a great-grandmother and a great-great-grandmother and a great-great-great-grandmother. And like the characters in the Bible that lived beyond, 500 years, how cool. Okay, so I'm saying 150. And there are people right now that we know get up to 120, and I think even 130. So it's possible, but they've hidden that from us, and they want us to think and to believe like our doctors. Believe in them and think like them, and that we're limited. And I encourage you with great love and humility on my part to, when you see older people, like, talk to them about living a long time. Like, I love going up to older people. I'm like, I want to live to 150. How about you? And they'll be like, oh, most people go, oh no, I don't want that. Oh, and then they'll hear it out of their mouth. Oh, this is what I learned from Dr. Tom Cowan. I took his 6-month. Highly recommend this. I had money from my father's the inheritance, which we bought this house with, but also I had a few thousand left, and I was very particular with what I spent it on. And one of the best investments in my life has been, I took the new biology curriculum course with Dr. Tom Cowan and 11 other students. 2 other people in there were doctors that were unlearning, and really, really cool people in the course that were like big open-minded people and all of that. And one thing he talked about in when you're with a patient as a practitioner, or when you're just generally trying to wake people up to ideas that are not obvious to them, although they're obvious to us, like virus existing, after you've read the information and and you've lived life and realize that it's toxins and contagion doesn't exist like they tell us, like my saliva is not going to get you sick. None of that's real. I'm sure you guys already know that. But he said, you want to ask a question and let them give an answer. And then if the question is formulated in the right way, they will feel really dumb with the words coming out of their mouth. And then that'll make them think, because that's exactly how I feel and how I felt when I used to just run my mouth and say, yeah, well, gravity is 9.8, whatever the hell it was. When I first heard about flat Earth, I totally was like, gravity 9.8, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know anything, and I wasn't like big time ever into any of the NASA stuff, but I really, 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 really was effective to all of us, even those of us that were never even into that space. So I think that that's really good advice, formulating creative questions that get the person to say something that hopefully the truth, but that it was like a rote something they learned and is a lie. And then they go, wait, that doesn't make sense. Right. I think that's a gentle way of doing it. Good night, you guys. Good night. Okay. Yes. Good. Take that course. Okay. Love you all. Have a great night. Bye.